I bought my parents a house and put my dreams on hold to support them. Then one day, my mom looked me dead in the eye and said, "You were always the disappointment, not her." So I walked out. A month later, my dad showed up at my job crying. I asked security to escort him out. "So you're just going to leave?" "Yes." But she didn't mean it like that. She meant it exactly like that. And you know it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. My hands were steady as I zipped up the old duffel bag I hadn't used in years. I didn't even pack much. Just a few changes of clothes, my laptop, some toiletries, and a folder with my personal documents. I left everything else, everything I had earned, paid for, or brought into that house. Because none of it mattered anymore. I grew up in a small duplex in Scranton, Pennsylvania. It wasn't the worst neighborhood, but it wasn't the best either. My dad, Wallace, worked for a local freight company, driving long-haul routes, and my mom, Doreen, bounced between part-time jobs, school cafeteria, cleaning houses, retail. We never had much. But we had enough to eat and the lights stayed on most of the time. I was the first in my family to go to college. I got a scholarship to the University of Pittsburgh and majored in finance. My younger sister, Alina, was still in high school when I left, and even back then it was obvious she was the favorite. Mom and Dad doted on her. She was pretty, charismatic, and funny. I was the serious one. The one who studied, kept to herself, followed the rules. I didn't resent it at the time. I thought that was just the natural order of things. Some people sparkle. Others keep the lights on. After graduation, I got a decent job in Philly and started sending money home. At first it was just for groceries. Then it was the heating bill. Then Mom's insulin. Then the car broke down. Then Alina needed help with her tuition at a private college in Connecticut. I never said no. When they were about to lose their house, I took out a loan and bought a small 2-bedroom ranch in Dunmore. Paid the down payment, signed the mortgage, furnished the whole place. I moved in with them temporarily, commuting to Philadelphia every morning and crashing in the basement at night. It was supposed to be temporary. It lasted 6 years. I was 29 when I first brought up the idea of moving out. I told them I was thinking about getting a 1-bedroom closer to my job. Mom didn't even look up from the couch. "And what, we just rot here alone while you run off to the city?" She said it like I was abandoning a baby on a doorstep. So I stayed. I kept commuting. I paid the mortgage, the bills, and Alina's credit card debt. My sister moved to New York City and started posting videos online about wellness and manifesting your dream life. She never paid them a cent. But they worshipped her like she was some kind of goddess. "Your sister is living her truth," Mom would say. I was living in the basement, skipping meals to save money, and wondering if I'd ever be able to afford a place of my own. Then came the night everything snapped. It was a Tuesday. We were eating dinner, something simple, baked ziti and garlic bread. I made it. I always cooked. Alina hadn't called in over a month. Dad made some offhand comment about how busy she was with clients and retreats. I said something small, like how it'd be nice if she checked in once in a while. That's when Mom put her fork down. "You were always disappointing." "Not her." Just like that. No build-up. No anger. Just fact. I didn't respond. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel surprised. It was like someone had just confirmed a suspicion I'd carried my whole life. I stood up from the table, went to the basement, packed my bag, and walked out. They didn't follow me. They didn't call. I spent 2 nights in my car. It was October and cold, but I didn't feel it. I parked near Penn's Landing, watched the river, and thought about all the years I'd given them. All the money. All the time. Then I found a cheap studio in Fishtown. Bad insulation, loud neighbors, a broken heater. But it was mine. I drained what little savings I had and started building the business I had dreamed about for years, an accounting firm that helped small local businesses navigate taxes and bookkeeping. I called it Ledger Light. My first clients were a diner, a tattoo shop, and a corner store. I worked around the clock. No weekends. No holidays. But I was alive again. A month passed. It was raining hard. I remember because I hadn't brought an umbrella and my boots were soaked. I was at a temporary accounting job in Center City, trying to build steady income while Ledger Light was still growing. My desk phone rang. Maura? There's a man at reception asking for you. He's crying. I already knew. I went downstairs and there was my father, Wallace. His coat was drenched, eyes red, clutching a plastic bag like it was a lifeline. Maura, he choked out. Your mother. She had a stroke. She's asking for you. Please. It was the first time I had seen my father cry. But I didn't feel anything. No pity. No hate. Just emptiness. I'm going to ask security to escort you out now, I said. He looked at me like he didn't recognize who I was anymore. Neither did I. I didn't tell anyone what happened that day at work. Not the receptionist, not my temp manager, not even the girl I sometimes shared lunch breaks with. I just went back upstairs, dried my hands under the bathroom hand dryer, and finished reconciling invoices. But something in me had shifted. It wasn't a clean break, like snapping a bone. It was more like something that had always been broken finally fell all the way apart. And with that came a strange kind of freedom. A painful, quiet one. The kind that doesn't cheer when you walk away, but doesn't beg you to stay either. I went home that night to my tiny studio and sat on the mattress I was still calling a bed. I pulled the space heater closer and watched the city lights flicker through my drafty window. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Please. Just come see her. She's asking for you. She doesn't remember much, but she keeps saying your name. Dad, I turned the screen face down and slid it under the pillow. Weeks passed. Then a letter arrived in the mail. A real one. Envelope. Handwriting. The kind of thing you don't see much anymore. It was from Wallace. Maura, I don't know how else to reach you, and maybe that's for the best. I won't show up again. I'm not trying to force anything. Your mom is recovering slowly. She's different now. Quieter. Some days she doesn't know where she is. Other days, she asks for you like nothing ever happened. She doesn't remember that night at dinner. I don't know if that's a blessing or not. I need you to know we failed you. I failed you. For years, I let your mother shape the way we saw you, and I didn't step in. I thought being the quiet one, the responsible one, meant you were fine. That you didn't need more from us. But I see now you were drowning, and we just kept asking for more. I wish I had realized it sooner. I understand if you never come back. Dad, I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in the drawer with my lease agreement and business paperwork. It stayed there. Not torn. Not burned. But not answered, either. Alina reached out next. She messaged me through LinkedIn, of all places. I hadn't blocked her because I'd forgotten she even had a profile. Hey. I know things are messy, but I thought you should know Mom's been asking about you a lot. She cries sometimes and says she's sorry, but I don't know if she knows why. I'm flying home in a few weeks and thought maybe we could talk. I didn't answer. But I read the message twice. Her profile photo was of a beach in Costa Rica. One of those pictures with sunlight pouring in behind her like a halo. Her job title was still Holistic Wellness Coach plus Energy Alignment Specialist. I had no doubt that my parents were still sending her money. Even now. I closed the tab and went back to reviewing a spreadsheet for a struggling laundromat that hadn't filed taxes in 3 years. These were my people now. Small businesses. People are just trying to survive. I didn't save lives. I didn't get applause. But I helped people keep their lights on. It felt honest. By the time spring arrived, Ledger Light had grown enough to move out of the shared workspace. I found a modest office in South Philly above a pizza shop. 2 rooms, 1 printer, a window that overlooked the alley, and enough space for a second desk. I hired a part-time assistant, Nico. He was a 20-something kid trying to finish his associates in business management while working nights. Sharp. Quiet. Grateful. We didn't talk much about our personal lives, but one night while locking up, he said, "You work like someone's chasing you." I didn't respond. I just smiled a little. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was still running. But at least now I was choosing the direction. My mom's condition never left the edge of my consciousness. Some days I'd think about calling the hospital just to ask. Other days I hated myself for even thinking about it. What would I even say? "Hi, I'm the daughter who was never good enough, just checking in on the woman who said so out loud." There's no script for this kind of healing. No checklist for what to do when the people who raised you also broke you. And yet, I still felt something pull at me. Not love. Not an obligation. Maybe just a need to understand how it all got so bad. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Nico left a post-it on my desk one morning that said, "Call George at 9. He's ready to sign." It was a big client, a local bakery chain I'd been chasing for 6 months. If this went through, it would mean stability. Maybe even enough to bring on a 3rd employee. I looked at the sticky note. Then at my inbox. Then at the drawer where my dad's letter still sat. I reached in and unfolded it. It was wrinkled now, the edges curling. But the ink hadn't faded. It still ended the same way, "I understand if you never come back." And for the first time in months, I cried. Not hard. Not loud. Just a slow, quiet leak of everything I'd been holding in. Regret. Anger. Loss. Love. Fear. I wasn't sure what any of it meant. But it felt like the beginning of something. 2 weeks after I read the letter again, I started dreaming about the house. Not the one I bought them, the small beige place in Dunmore, but the duplex we grew up in. The peeling linoleum, the creaky stairs, the little patch of yard where we used to play with chalk in the summer. It came to me in fragments, like scenes from a movie I hadn't watched in decades. In the dreams, I was always standing at the bottom of the stairs, and I could hear my mom calling my name from somewhere upstairs. I'd look up, but I never climbed them. I always woke up before I moved. The dreams didn't scare me. But they left me hollow in the mornings. I'd get up, make coffee, check my emails. Business was doing well. I should have felt proud. I had pulled myself out of the rubble and built something stable, something mine. But no matter how much success I stacked on top of it, that one sentence still sat at the bottom of my chest like a stone. "You were always disappointing." Not her. It had been 6 months since I left. I hadn't spoken to either of them since the day I turned my dad away from my office lobby. Sometimes I wondered if he hated me now, or if my mom even remembered what she said. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she genuinely forgot. Maybe she said it 100 other times in her head before she ever said it out loud, and the words had lost their weight for her, but not for me. I have a therapist now, Carmen. Mid-40s, no nonsense but kind. She had a raspy voice and wore thick cardigans and silver rings on every finger. She never pushed me to forgive them. Never made healing sound like something I was obligated to hand over. What would happen, she asked one session, if you walked into the hospital room and she said nothing? Just stared at you like she didn't even remember? I think that would be worse, I said. Why? Because I've been holding all this pain, and it wouldn't even exist for her. Like it never mattered. Like I never mattered. Carmen nodded, not writing anything down. Just sitting with it. Then maybe this isn't about what she remembers, she said. Maybe it's about what you want to remember. Alina messaged again in mid-June. Still in town another week. I'll be at Cafe Valeria on Saturday morning if you want to talk. No pressure. No accusations. Just a small olive branch. I stared at the message for a long time. I remembered when Alina was 15 and broke her arm falling off a swing at the park. I carried her half a mile back to the house while she screamed. I remembered staying up with her during storms, when thunder made her cry and Mom would tell her to grow up. I remembered teaching her how to braid her hair. But I also remembered every time she vanished. Every family emergency she skipped. Every excuse she made while I picked up the pieces, paid the bills, made the meals, and got nothing but silence. She wasn't innocent. But she wasn't the enemy either. Maybe we were both just raised in a house where only one of us was allowed to matter at a time. Saturday came. It rained again. I stood across the street from Cafe Valeria for almost 10 minutes, staring through the windows. She was already there. Hair longer than I remembered, soft curls falling around her face. She looked like an influencer. Glossy skin, white nails, perfectly positioned coffee mug in hand. She kept checking her phone. I turned around. Walked 2 blocks. Then stopped. I didn't owe her anything. Not a hug. Not a tearful reunion. Not even forgiveness. But maybe I owed myself something. So I walked back. She looked up when the door chimed, eyes widening in surprise. She stood up too fast and nearly knocked over her cup. "Hey," she said. "You came." "I didn't come to fix anything," I replied, taking the seat across from her. "I just came to hear the truth." She nodded slowly, like she'd been preparing for this. "I don't remember what she said to you that night," she admitted. "Dad told me after. And I didn't know what to say. I didn't know it had been that bad." "You didn't know?" I asked, eyebrows raised. "I knew she was cold to you," she said, picking at her sleeve. "But I thought you were fine. You always were. You were the strong one." I let out a hollow laugh. "That's what everyone says. That I was the strong one. Like that meant I didn't need anything." "I'm sorry." The words didn't solve anything. But they were honest. She looked different now, older, yes, but softer too. Like life had stopped going her way in the last year, and she wasn't used to being bruised. "Why now?" I asked. "Why message me now?" She didn't answer immediately. She looked down, took a breath, then looked back at me. "Because she keeps forgetting my name," she whispered. "She calls me you. Sometimes she thinks I'm you, and she starts crying. Then she asks if I'm mad at her." I stared at her. My pulse was steady, but something deep inside me started to sink. "She doesn't remember that night?" I asked. "I don't think so. But she remembers the weight of it. Like she knows she lost something. Someone." I nodded slowly. There were no big revelations. No tears. No sudden understanding between sisters. But we sat there for another hour. Just 2 women who had survived the same storm, in different rooms of the same house. I didn't go to the hospital that week. But I didn't throw away her message either. That was the first time I admitted, quietly, in my own mind, that maybe this wasn't about going back. Maybe it was about deciding what parts of my past I wanted to carry forward. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about letting them off the hook. Maybe it was about finally putting myself down. The next few weeks were quiet. Alina and I didn't become best friends overnight. We weren't texting every day or making plans. But the wall was cracked now, just enough for air to get through. She sent me a photo once, Mom in a wheelchair, smiling faintly, hair thinner, looking far smaller than I'd remembered. The caption just said, "She had a good day." I stared at it for a long time before locking my phone and going back to work. Ledger Light had taken on a few new clients. Word was getting around. One of the bakery owners I'd helped referred to a friend who ran a cleaning company. A small record store came next. I found myself sitting across from men and women who reminded me of my parents, if things had gone a different way. People who worked hard, missed deadlines, and didn't always know how to ask for help. I liked them. They didn't put on airs. They thanked me like they meant it. Still, even on good days, something stuck with me. A certain hollowness I couldn't name. Like grief, but slower. Not for what was lost, but for what never had the chance to be. Carmen, my therapist, asked me one day, "What does forgiveness look like to you?" I didn't answer right away. I sat in the armchair, legs curled under me, staring out the small window behind her desk. I used to think it was a handshake or a hug. An apology, I said. But now I think it might just be not wishing they suffer anymore. Not wishing they'd feel what I felt. She nodded. So it's not about restoring a relationship. No, I said. I don't want the old version of us back. I don't think it ever existed in the first place. And what about a new version? I thought about that. I thought about Alina sitting across from me in Café Valeria, nervously picking at the rim of her mug like she was 10 years old again. I thought about my father soaked in rain, clutching that plastic bag in my office lobby. I thought about my mother, her voice sharp and dismissive for decades, and now, possibly, reduced to fragments of memory that called out to me only in confusion. I don't know, I whispered. One Sunday morning, I did something unexpected. I drove to Dunmore. I didn't call ahead. I didn't text. I didn't even know what I was planning to do. I just found myself on I-81, driving past places I hadn't thought about in months. Diners I used to pass on my commute. The old billboard that used to advertise the fireworks warehouse. The Shell station where I'd stop for gas every other day. And then I was there. The house I bought them was still standing. Beige siding, cracked front walkway, weeds curling at the corners. I parked across the street and sat there for a long time, engine off, fingers curled tightly around the steering wheel. The curtains were drawn. I couldn't see inside. I didn't go up to the door. Instead, I opened the glove compartment, pulled out an envelope I'd written weeks ago, no return address, just their names, and stepped out of the car. I walked to the mailbox and slid it inside. It wasn't long. Just a few sentences. I don't know what will happen next. I'm not ready to come inside yet. But I am alive. I am okay. And I don't hate you. More. Then I turned around and drove back to the city. No fanfare. No dramatic music. No one was running outside to stop me. Just the sound of tires on wet pavement, and the faint throb of my heart as I put distance between us again. A week passed. Then 2. Then 3. Nothing came in the mail. No calls. No emails. Alina messaged once more. I think she liked your letter. She smiled when Dad read it to her. That's all she did. But it was something. I said, thanks. That was it. No closure. No fireworks. Just a small, careful shift in the soil where something used to be buried. I started walking more. Every morning before work, I'd go to the park near my apartment and loop the trail. It wasn't scenic, just patches of overgrown grass and cracked paths, but it cleared my head. It gave me space to think without expectations. One morning, I passed a woman sitting on a bench with a girl about 5 or 6. She was fixing the kid's ponytail, gently tugging it tighter, the girl squirming and pouting. Too tight, Mama. The woman laughed. Well, that's how I learned. That's how I learned. The words echoed. Sometimes love is passed down through hurt, like a recipe with a bitter aftertaste no one dares to question. And if you're not careful, you start repeating it without realizing. I didn't want to repeat it. I didn't know yet what that meant for my future, whether I'd ever want kids, whether I'd let my parents back in even a little, but I knew one thing with certainty: I had survived the house. And now I was building something different. Maybe that's all healing was. Not fixing the past. Just refusing to carry it into the future. About 9 months after I walked out of my parents' home, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I usually don't pick those up, but something in my gut said to answer. "Is this Maura Jennings?" a calm male voice asked. "Yes." "Who's calling?" "My name is Dr. Feynman. I'm your mother's neurologist." I still went. "She signed a power of attorney document last year listing you as her medical decision maker in the event she became mentally incapacitated. That threshold has now been met. I'm calling to walk you through the next steps." There was a pause so long I think he thought we'd been disconnected. I wasn't aware of that," I said. She was insistent on it, according to the social worker. "We have the signed copy on file." "You're the one she named. Not your father. Not your sister. You." I don't remember much else from that call, just vague mentions of appointments, therapies, paperwork. I hung up, sat down, and stared out the window for 20 minutes. She picked me. After all that. Alina called the next day, frantic. "I didn't know," she said. "She didn't tell anyone." "Of course not," I said flatly. "She's forgetting more things now. Some days she still thinks I'm you. Yesterday she tried to leave the house in slippers and no coat. I don't know what to do." "That's not really my problem," I said. There was silence on the line. "Then, don't you want to help her?" I waited for a beat, then said calmly, "She made her decision. Now she can live with it, or forget it. Either way, it's not my burden." And then I hung up. But I didn't stop there. I hired a lawyer. I pulled every record I could find related to the house, their debts, and the money I'd spent supporting them over the years. My accountant helped me organize the finances. I wasn't trying to ruin them, I just wanted control. I filed paperwork to transfer all utility and financial account authorizations under my name, now legally permissible through the medical POA. Within weeks, I was getting all the mail. Mortgage statements. Credit card bills. Insurance notices. That's when I saw it. A recent cash withdrawal, $4,000, from a joint account between my dad and Alina. Money that should have been used for medical supplies. My money. I confronted them by email, just once. Going forward, I will be managing every penny related to her care. Any attempts to reroute funds will be flagged as financial torment. I've already consulted with an elder care attorney. Don't test me. No one replied. With the legal leverage in place, I made a few key decisions. First, I sold the car they'd bought with my help. It wasn't being used properly, and it was in my name. The funds went straight into a trust for Mom's in-home care. I hired a licensed nurse to visit 3 times a week. Then, I moved their accounts into a tightly controlled budget system. No more spending on Alina's wellness retreats or Dad's weekend poker games. Every transaction now required my approval. I didn't visit. I didn't call. But I made damn sure they were cared for, on my terms. Word got around town. I didn't expect that part. People started to talk. Old neighbors, friends of the family, even folks who once pitied me or turned a blind eye when I was running myself ragged to keep my parents afloat. Apparently Alina's image was taking a hit. Some people just exploit their own family for cash, someone commented on her latest Instagram post. Another wrote, "Your sister deserves better. You never gave back the way she did." A few local clients of hers canceled retreats. One even emailed me asking if I was the sister. "I am," I replied. Then I never responded again. By my 37th birthday, Ledger Light had expanded to a full office suite. I had 3 employees, a steady stream of clients, and a growing reputation for being a firm that understood struggle, because I did. Personally. One day, I walked into my office to find a package on my desk. Inside was a framed photo. It was old, early 90s, maybe. Me and Alina sitting on the porch steps. I must have been about 10. She was maybe 5. I was braiding her hair. We were both smiling. Not posed. Just happy. On the back was a note in shaky handwriting. You always took care of us. I just didn't see it until it was too late. I hope, wherever you are, you know I am sorry. Mom, I stared at it for a long time. Then I put it in the back of my filing cabinet. Not to forget it. Just to keep it somewhere it couldn't hurt me anymore. Revenge isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes it's slow, cold, and exact. Sometimes it's the power to walk into a room and be the one who gets to decide. I didn't scream. I didn't burn bridges. I didn't wish them dead. I just took back control. I built the life they never wanted me to have, and made sure they knew they were no longer the authors of my story. They wrote the first few chapters in ink. But the rest? That's all mine.